In this video, I'm presenting my own open source agent orchestration framework called Agency Swarm. The main goal of this project is to replace my own AI development agency with an agent swarm in the next few months. Let's get started. This framework is fully based on the new OpenAI Assistants API, because I believe that OpenAI is likely to introduce a lot more capabilities to this API in the future. But before I explain what it is and how you can use it in your own projects, let me clarify what it is not. First of all, it is not a collection of pre-made tools or templates like LangChain. You cannot just import an agent, drop it into your code editor, and then immediately have a ready-to-go app. This might seem convenient in the beginning, but as soon as you need just a tiny bit of customization, you're essentially trapped deep within their code, making it almost impossible to tailor your app for your specific use case. Second, this is not a research experiment like AutoGen. You see, systems like AutoGen also require huge hidden prompts deep within their code in order for them to function properly. So what usually happens in production is that your prompts start to conflict with these hidden prompts, and then it makes the whole system almost impossible to steer. On the other hand, in my framework, there is not a single prompt that you do not have control over. And third, this is not a way for you to make $1 million without lifting a finger just yet. Although this framework abstracts away the most complex details, you do have to set your agents up yourself. I made this intentionally and on purpose, so you have more control. You have to provide your agents with the necessary knowledge, instructions and tools, and only then you can define the communication flows between these agents. I do plan to create an agency that can create other agencies in the future, but more on this later. If you would like to learn more details, I left a link to a custom GPT that knows everything about my project in the description. But right now, let's go ahead and try to recreate my own AI development agency from scratch. Pull out the notebook from the description and run the install cell to install Agency Swarm from my GitHub. I will post it on pip as soon as I am confident that there will not be any breaking changes. If you find any issues, feel free to open them on GitHub. The first agent that we are going to create will be a CEO, who is myself. As we are still a very young agency, I am essentially responsible for all the client communication, planning and task assignment. So this is exactly what I'm going to say in the agent description. This description plays a crucial role in my framework because it will be used by other agents to determine who to communicate with. If you compare this approach to AutoGen, they have an extremely strange selection process where they essentially emulate role play for the agents and ask them who should speak next with an extra call to the model. On the other hand, in this system, the whole communication flow is handled through a special send message tool, so there is no need for any extra prompts or any extra model calls. Your agents will determine themselves who to communicate with through function calling based on their own descriptions. For the instructions, you can either import them from a file or simply provide it as a string. Make sure to play with these for your own specific use case. If you have any documents, you can upload them to a folder in Files on the left and then insert your folder path into the files folder parameter. After that, your files will be automatically versioned and uploaded to your assistant. The next assistant that we are going to define will be a virtual assistant. Virtual assistant plays a crucial part in my agency as she helps me save time on routine tasks like budgets, emails and drafting proposals. I added an example here and the cells below of how you can connect your agent with any LangChain tools. In particular, I'm adding actions to draft and find emails with Zapier. So if you want to use these tools, make sure to click on the link to get your Zapier Actions API key connected to your mailbox and enable these two actions. In the future, I will add a tool factory that will allow you to import any tools from LangChain or Llama Index in one line of code. Now, I will also create two additional custom tools. The first one is a web search tool that utilizes DuckDuckGo to search the internet, and the second one is a proposal generator. The proposal generator function will actually call the OpenAI completions endpoint to generate a proposal. This technique ensures that your agent will always get similar results when generating proposals based on your own specified prompt. Keep in mind that all the tools should extend the base tool, which is defined within Instructor library. Again, a tutorial on how to define your custom tools with Instructor is probably coming soon. But for now, just keep in mind that all your doc strings and field descriptions will be passed to the model, and this is how it will determine when and how to use your tools. Additionally, Instructor provides automatic type validation, so if for any reason your model hallucinates and inserts a wrong type, which often happens in production, it will immediately correct itself. Next, I will add basic instructions for this agent and create it. The last agent will be the developer, similar to the one I made in my previous video. However, this time it will be able to write multiple files into a program. So the program tool will take a list of file tools along with a special chain of thought parameter that will force the model to plan its actions beforehand. This allows you to achieve better results on complex functions without having to use a chain of thought prompt globally, which could increase your token usage and latency. I will also allow it to run any terminal commands this time with an execute command tool. However, I do not recommend doing this in your own local environment. Now that all our agents are prepared, the next step is to create the agency manifesto. The manifesto is basically a set of instructions that will be shared across all your agents, so it makes sense to add basic context about your environment, your mission statement, goals, etc. And the final step is to define the communication flows in your agency. This is handled using the agency chart within the special agency class. Essentially, the first agent will be the agent responsible for communication with the client or the user, so you can put it as a standalone item in a top-level array. Next, you have to define to whom the CEO will be able to communicate. In my agency, I can assign tasks to a virtual assistant or a developer, but they cannot assign tasks to me. So I'm going to add two more arrays with a CEO on the left and a dev and VA on the right. Keep in mind that the communication flows in my library are directional, because I do not want my agents to chat for no reason. So, in this example, the CEO can initiate a chat with the developer or the VA, and they can respond in this chat, but the developer or the VA can't initiate a chat with the CEO themselves, just like in my organization. However, it does make sense to allow the developer to chat with the virtual assistant because the developer might also need help with tasks like research. So, I'm going to add another item with the dev on the left and VA on the right, which means that now the developer will be able to initiate a chat with the VA and assign him new tasks. Make sure to tailor this chart for your specific organization. Agency manifesto you can put into the shared instructions parameter. And by the way, this can also be a file. After you run the cell, you will see a special settings.json file appear in files on the left. The settings.json file will keep track of all your agents and update them in case of any changes. So, for example, if you change instructions for the dev and run the agency class again, instead of creating a new agent, this framework will automatically update your existing one. I did this so you can save the schema locally or into a database and then reinstate your agents later. It also works for files, so if you upload any files to a folder, it will automatically add IDs to your file names and then only upload the new ones. After our agency is initialized, the last thing we need to do is simply run demo Gradio method. This will create a simple chat application with Gradio where you can test your agency swarm. So let's see how it works. The first message I will send is we need a simple neural net to predict MNIST digits. This kinda mimics a simple project that an AI development agency might receive. As you can see, the CEO immediately asks the VA for a proposal, and then VA calls the generate proposal function, which it then returns back to the CEO, who reports it back to myself. Of course, some details in a proposal are not exactly realistic, but you can easily fix this by providing more context in the agency manifesto or adjusting the prompt for the generate proposal function. After I confirm the proposal and tell the CEO to proceed with the development, it sends these details to the developer agent. The developer agent now starts to develop the program, which it then saves to the main.py file and proceeds with executing and debugging this code. This might take a while because it is actually training a real neural network right now in our Collab notebook environment. You can check out the code by going back into the Collab and then opening Files tab on the left. After the execution is complete, the developer agent reports back to the CEO that the neural network has been trained, which the CEO then communicates back to me or to the client. Awesome, so now I'm going to ask it to display some images with the results and save them to the results.png file. There is literally almost no supervision in the system required. I simply communicated what I wanted to do to the CEO, and then it interpreted all the instructions to the developer, who then wrote and executed the new file. You can see it again under the files on the left along with the results.png image. It actually got every single image right, which is pretty cool because it took me a while when I was getting started. Now finally, I'm going to tell it to write an email to me at arsen.ai saying that the task has been completed. Now the CEO automatically determines that it needs to send this request to the virtual assistant instead of the developer agent based on our agent descriptions. Then it confirms to us that the draft has been written, which you can see in my mailbox. So this was already quite impressive, and I could already see how with some adjustments and more data I could actually use this system in my own agency. Still, there are a few improvements that I plan to add to this framework, which I'm going to discuss with you next. Any contributions on GitHub are welcome. First, the communication flow right now is synchronous. This means that our agents must talk to each other until the task is fully completed. In the future, I plan to allow agents to do this asynchronously, meaning that they will be able to execute multiple tasks in a queue. The CEO will then be able to check, or even better, receive notifications of successful task completions. Second, in the next few videos, I want to try to create an agency that creates other agencies, where one agent could be responsible for creating tools, another agent for instructions, and third for files, and so on. And lastly, at the very end, I plan to allow agencies to communicate with one another, which in combination with agency that creates other agencies could lead to a self-expanding system, or in other words, an agency swarm that grows to facilitate your needs. In conclusion, the OpenAI Assistants API is a game changer for AI agent development. The ability to store instructions, data, and functions directly in each new agent makes it perfect for orchestrating agent swarms. The fact that each agent can be extremely specialized allows us to expand our system as much as we want without worrying about any hallucinations. And this library provides you with all the necessary abstractions to start building usable agent swarms or agencies without having to worry about any of the low-level details. So I am extremely excited to see where you guys are going to take it next and what you're going to create. Please feel free to contribute on GitHub, give it a star, and share this video if you want to support the project. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.